The Galactic Council thought it was just another broadcast, a warning, a humiliation, a message meant to break Earth's spirit. They didn't expect a reaction. When their brutal decree echoed across human space, every screen went silent. Every colony stopped. Every soldier turned toward Earth's signal. And then the fury began. Missile signatures lit up the void. Warfleets mobilized in minutes. And the Council learned the truth. You can insult a species. You can threaten a world. But you never, ever broadcast a challenge to humanity unless you're ready for the firestorm that answers. The summons. The observatory on Zenith Prime hung in the darkness between stars like a jewel made of light and metal. It was all built by the first species to master faster than light travel more than 50,000 years ago. Inside its crystalline halls, 15 different alien species gathered to make decisions that shaped the fate of entire worlds. They called themselves the Interstellar Coalition, and they believed they were the guardians of galactic peace. Today, they were discussing a small problem from a small planet in an unremarkable corner of the galaxy. A world called Earth. High Chancellor Vorn stood at the center of the Grand Assembly Chamber. He was a Crithian, tall and elegant, with skin that shimmered like polished bronze. His species had been exploring the stars for 20,000 years. They had seen countless civilizations rise and fall. They believed they understood how the universe worked. He touched a control panel and the chamber filled with images. Radio signals, television broadcasts, digital transmissions. All of it pouring out from Earth like noise from a screaming child. They have discovered radio communication, Vorn announced. His voice carried easily through the vast space. They are sending signals into the void without understanding what might hear them. This is dangerous, foolish, typical primitive species. Around the chamber, representatives from 14 other species observed the images. Some looked curious. Others looked disgusted. A few seemed concerned. The images showed Earth's recent history. Wars that killed millions. Weapons that could destroy cities in seconds. Pollution that poisoned their own air and water. Violence in streets and homes. It was not a pretty picture. They fight constantly, said Ambassador Thane of the Quillary. The Quillary were small beings with 4 arms and eyes that could see in spectrums humans had never imagined. They create weapons to kill their own kind. They divide themselves by colors and beliefs. This is not a species ready for the stars. Perhaps they will destroy themselves, suggested Counselor Mira of the Centauri. Her species communicated through bioluminescent patterns on their skin. Many primitive species do. We could simply wait and watch. Warren shook his head. They are advancing too quickly. They went from basic flight to splitting atoms in less than 100 years. From atoms to leaving their planet in just 70 more. This speed is unprecedented, dangerous. If they continue unchecked, they will spread their chaos across the galaxy. The chamber fell silent. Every species present remembered their own violent pasts. But those pasts were distant, buried under thousands of years of civilization and progress. These humans were still in the middle of their chaos, still fighting, still building weapons, still acting like animals with technology. What do you propose? Asked High Chancellor Vorn. We make contact, Thane said firmly, but not as equals. We show them their place. We demand they submit to coalition oversight. We monitor them, control their expansion, keep them contained until they prove that they have evolved beyond their savage nature. If they refuse, we make it clear what will happen. Votes were cast. The decision was unanimous. Earth would receive an ultimatum. Submit to coalition authority or face isolation. Perhaps worse. The message was prepared carefully. It traveled faster than light, bouncing through relay stations across half the galaxy until it reached the edge of Earth's solar system. There, it was translated into every human language and broadcast on every frequency humanity used. The message was simple. You have been observed. You have been judged. Send one representative to Zenith Prime. Come unarmed. Come alone. Your future will be decided. On Earth, the message caused panic. World leaders gathered in emergency sessions. Scientists tried to understand the technology behind the transmission. Religious leaders debated what it meant. Military commanders prepared for invasion. The media turned it into a circus. Everyone had an opinion. No one had answers. In the chaos, one person stepped forward. Commander Sarah Chan was 42 years old. She had spent half her life preparing for humanity's first contact with alien life. She was an astronaut, a physicist, and a diplomat. She had trained in 7 languages and studied every culture on Earth. She had walked in space and commanded missions to Mars. She was calm under pressure and brilliant under stress. She was also stubborn in a way that had gotten her in trouble more than once. "I'll go," she told the Emergency Council of World Leaders. Someone has to. Might as well be someone who knows how to handle unexpected situations. "They might kill you." The Secretary General warned Sarah, smiled slightly. "They might. But if they wanted us dead, they could have done it already. They want something else. They want to see if we'll bow. Will you?" "I'll listen," Sarah said carefully. "But I won't lie about who we are. And I won't promise things I can't deliver. Humanity doesn't have one voice. We have billions. I can only speak for myself." 3 days later, she climbed aboard a small shuttle. It was the best Earth could offer, primitive compared to what waited out there. The coalition had provided coordinates. Sarah followed them. The journey took 2 weeks. Her shuttle was slow, burning chemical fuel while the aliens crossed galaxies in hours. She spent the time reading everything humanity knew about the universe. It was not much. They were children playing with toys they barely understood. When Zenith Prime appeared on her sensors, Sarah caught her breath. It was beautiful, massive. A structure the size of a small moon, built from materials that seemed to drink in starlight and glow from within. Ships from a dozen different species docked at its ports. Each one was larger and more advanced than anything humanity had ever built. She felt very small, suddenly, very alone. But she had volunteered for this. She would see it through. Her shuttle was guided to a landing bay by invisible forces. When she stepped out, wearing her plain blue uniform with Earth's flag on the shoulder, 6 different species waited to escort her. They did not speak to her. They simply gestured for her to follow. Sarah walked through corridors that seemed to shift and change around her. The walls showed images of alien worlds. Billions of beings going about their lives under strange suns. This was the galaxy humanity wanted to join. This was the civilization that now judged them. The assembly chamber took her breath away. It was enormous, built on a scale that made her feel like an insect. 15 platforms rose in a circle, each holding a representative of a different species. Some looked almost human. Others were so alien she could barely process what she was saying. All of them looked down at her with the same expression, disappointment, as if she were a broken toy that had stopped working properly. "Hi," Chancellor Vorn spoke first. His words were translated instantly into English by technology Sarah could not see. "You stand before the Interstellar Coalition. We have watched your species for 50 of your years. We have seen what you are. We have judged you unfit for the stars." Sarah stood very still. She kept her hands at her sides. She looked up at these beings who had mastered the galaxy while humanity was still learning to make fire. And she wondered what they would do when they realized they had made a terrible mistake. Not about humanity's violence. That part was true. But about what that violence meant. They thought it made humans weak. Controllable. They were about to learn otherwise. "Then why am I here?" Sarah asked quietly. Vorn touched his control panel. The chamber filled with new images. Earth's wars. Earth's weapons. Earth's cruelty. Every dark moment from humanity's past played across screens that surrounded her. "Because," Vorn said, "the galaxy needs to understand what happens when a violent species is allowed to spread. You will be our example, our lesson. Your species will accept our guidance, or you will be contained. The broadcast begins now." Sarah realized with cold certainty that this was not a trial. It was a public execution, and every civilized being in the galaxy was about to watch. The awakening, the broadcast traveled across the galaxy at speeds that defied human understanding. In seconds, it reached billions of worlds. Trillions of beings stopped what they were doing to watch. The Interstellar Coalition rarely made public announcements. When they did, it meant something important was happening. Something the entire galaxy needed to witness. Sarah Chen stood alone in the center of the assembly chamber while images of humanity's worst moments played around her. She watched her own species tear itself apart on screens that stretched from floor to ceiling. The First World War with its trenches and poison gas. The Second World War with its concentration camps and atomic bombs. Rwanda, Syria, the endless conflicts that had marked human history, like scars on skin that never quite healed. The coalition representatives watched her carefully. They expected shame. They expected her to break down and beg for mercy. They expected her to promise that humanity would change, would do better, would accept whatever terms they offered. High Chancellor Vorn leaned forward on his platform. His bronze skin gleamed in the light from the screens. "You see what we see," he said. "A species drowning in its own violence. Tell us, Commander Chen, why should we allow such creatures to spread among the stars? What argument can you possibly make for humanity's freedom?" Sarah was quiet for a long moment. She looked at the images surrounding her. She did not flinch away from them. She had studied these moments her entire life. Every officer in Earth's unified space program had to. They called it the reckoning. Every person who wanted to represent humanity among the stars had to face what humanity had done to itself, had to understand the weight of that history, had to carry it forward and somehow do better. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was calm and steady. "I'm not going to argue with your evidence. Everything you've shown is true. We are violent. We have killed millions of our own kind. We have created weapons capable of destroying our entire planet. We have done terrible, unforgivable things." Murmurs spread through the chamber. This was not the response they expected. Bourne's eyes narrowed slightly. "Then you admit your species is dangerous, unfit for civilization?" "No," Sarah said. "I admit we're capable of terrible things. That's not the same as being defined by them." She turned slowly, looking at each representative in turn. "You've spent 50 years watching us. 50 years collecting our worst moments. But did you watch everything? Or did you only look for evidence that confirmed what you already believed?" "We observed comprehensively," Ambassador Thane said sharply. "We saw your wars, your genocides, your endless conflicts." Sarah nodded. "Did you also see what happened after those wars? After the genocides? After the conflicts?" She pulled a small device from her pocket. Earth technology, primitive by coalition standards, but functional. She pressed a button, and her own images began to appear on the screens. The coalition tried to block them. Their technology was far superior. But Sarah had been transmitting her signal since the moment she arrived, broadcasting on frequencies they had not thought to monitor. Her message was already spreading across the galaxy alongside theirs. The new images showed different moments. A firefighter carrying a child from a burning building. Doctors working through the night during the Ebola outbreak, knowing they might die. The boats that rescued thousands during floods in Bangladesh. Strangers forming human chains to pull people from collapsed buildings after earthquakes. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Not because they had to. Because they chose to. "After World War II, we created the United Nations," Sarah said. "After the atomic bombs, we formed treaties to control nuclear weapons. After every genocide, we said never again, and we meant it. We don't always succeed. We're not perfect, but we try. We keep trying." That's what you missed in your 50 years of watching. You saw our capacity for violence, but you never understood our capacity for change. "Pretty words," Counselor Mira said, her skin flickering with patterns that translated as contempt. "But words are meaningless. Actions define a species. Your actions are clear." "Then let me tell you about some actions you might have missed," Sarah replied. She walked slowly around the chamber as she spoke, her footsteps echoing in the vast space. In 1986, a reactor in a place called Chernobyl melted down. It released radiation that could have killed millions. 3 men volunteered to dive into radioactive water to prevent a steam explosion that would have made half of Europe uninhabitable. They knew it would kill them. They did it anyway. They all survived, actually, but they didn't know they would. They chose possible death to save strangers. She continued. In 2001, when buildings fell in New York, 343 firefighters ran upstairs while everyone else ran down. They died saving people they'd never met. In hospitals across our world, doctors and nurses work with diseases that could kill them in hours. They do it because someone has to. During our worst pandemic, healthcare workers wore garbage bags as protection because we ran out of proper equipment. They still showed up. They still fought. Thousands of them died. The rest kept working. The images on the screens shifted again. Sarah's broadcast was now reaching across the entire galaxy. The Coalition could not stop it without admitting they had lost control. And they were too proud for that. The new images showed humans at their best. Not perfect. Not peaceful. But trying, always trying. Reaching up from the darkness toward something better. You want to know what makes humanity dangerous? Sarah asked. She stopped walking and looked directly at High Chancellor Gorn. It's not our violence. Every species in this chamber has a violent past. You all climbed over mountains of your own dead to reach the stars. The difference is you did it slowly. Over thousands of years. You had time to forget how hard it was. How much it cost. We're still in the middle of it. We still remember. And we're still choosing to be better anyway. Choosing to be better does not erase what you are, Vorn said. But his voice was less certain now. Around the chamber, some representatives were watching the new images with expressions that might have been respect. Or fear. Sometimes those looked the same. Sarah smiled. It was not a happy smile. You're right. It doesn't erase what we are. We are killers. We are survivors. We are a species that has crawled out of extinction events 7 times. Ice ages that should have ended us. Plagues that killed half our population. We survived because we're stubborn and we're vicious and we refuse to die. That's what you saw in your 50 years of watching. That's what scared you. She pulled another device from her pocket. This one was different, sleeker, not human technology at all. Thane recognized it instantly. Where did you get that? That is Coalition property. That is impossible. We've had visitors, Sarah said calmly. Not official ones. Traders, explorers, people curious about the primitive humans. Some of them sold us things. Technology, information. We paid well. We learned fast. Did you know that? She activated the device. New images appeared. These ones showed something that made every representative in the chamber lean forward suddenly. They showed ships. Human ships. Not the primitive chemical rockets the Coalition had catalogued. These were real ships. Faster than light capable. Armed with weapons that borrowed from a dozen different alien technologies. And there were hundreds of them. Hidden in asteroid belts and on moons the Coalition had never bothered to scan thoroughly. Built in secret over 15 years while the galaxy watched and judged and assumed humanity was still playing with fire. We knew you were watching, Sarah said quietly. We knew you would judge us. So we prepared. Not for conquest. We don't want your worlds. We have enough problems with our own. But we prepared to make sure that whatever you decided, we would have a say in it. High Chancellor Warren stood slowly. Around the chamber, the other representatives were making sounds of alarm. Some in anger. Some in what might have been fear. You dare threaten the Coalition? I'm not threatening anyone, Sarah said. I'm showing you the same thing you showed the galaxy about us. The truth. Yes, we're violent. Yes, we're dangerous. But we're also smart enough to know when we're being cornered. And we're mean enough to bite back if you push us. She deactivated the device. The images of the hidden fleet disappeared. But here's the thing you need to understand about humanity. The thing you missed in all your watching and judging. She walked closer to Vorn's platform, close enough that he could see her eyes clearly. They were brown and steady and completely unafraid. We don't want to fight you. We don't want to conquer you. We don't even want revenge for this humiliation you just broadcast across the galaxy. What we want is respect. We want to be left alone to figure ourselves out, to make our own mistakes, to find our own path to whatever we're going to become. And if you can give us that, if you can treat us as equals instead of children, you'll find that there's no species in this galaxy more loyal, more willing to help, more ready to stand beside you when trouble comes. She stepped back. But if you try to control us, if you try to put chains on us, if you try to make us into something we're not. Her voice dropped to almost a whisper, but every being in the chamber heard it clearly. Then you'll learn exactly why we survived everything the universe threw at us. And trust me, Chancellor, you don't want that lesson. The chamber was silent. Across the galaxy, trillions of beings watched and waited. Some civilizations that had been conquered by the Coalition thousands of years ago saw something in Sarah's defiance that stirred memories they thought were dead. Some began to wonder if maybe they too could stand up and demand respect. The broadcast had not gone the way the Coalition planned. Instead of showing the galaxy why primitive species needed control, it showed them something else. It showed them that even the powerful could be challenged, that even the ancient could be made to reconsider. High Chancellor Vorn looked at this small human standing alone in his chamber. He thought about the fleet she had revealed. He thought about the other species watching. Asterisk comments for next.